lot of gamesmanship going on in the negotiations. There's a lot of things that we know are there just to be traded. But we as civil society, and I know that we're not all civil society here, but that part of what we need to do, I believe our task is to really clearly put some boundaries and put our concerns on the table early in this round of negotiations. Because as we saw in the last round, it took some quite extraordinary interventions by the Special Rapporteur on Water, by the 22 Special Rapporteurs, as Jocelyn pointed out, by others, to ensure or to put member states on notice that we would not stand by as they, and these are the words of the Special Rapporteur on Water and Sanitation, saying that we would not stand by as they betrayed their commitments. So, you know, this is still an ongoing negotiation, we recognize that, but we do have a role to play as civil society. So I'm going to ask Marcos now, actually, to talk a little bit about, because we did start this off last round of negotiations, certainly, and it did get things rolling, to tell us a bit about the broad human rights concerns that have happened, some of the work that was done last time, and maybe how we can re-engage, because as I said at the beginning, it's not just about what's going on here, we have to engage all of the UN institutions. I'll give you a microphone if you want, Marcos.
Thank you, Anil. My name is Marcos Orellana. I'm an attorney from Chile, and I'm with the Center for International Environmental Law in Washington, D.C. and Geneva. Thanks for the opportunity to speak further about rights. Setting the context for this discussion leads me to refer to an experts workshop that, together with Earth Justice and the Friedrich Ebert Stiftung Foundation, we organized in Geneva a couple of months ago in January, focused on human rights, environment, and climate change. The experts that were brought together in that process found that under the framework of sustainable development, the integration of human rights and environment made significant progress. It also found that the right to environment was central in discussions towards the green economy and the international framework, the institutional framework for sustainable development. These messages were then taken to the Human Rights Council, which was meeting in March, the sessions that took place last March, on events at the site of those sessions. We called on the Council to provide a human rights perspective to the Rio+20 process. And the Council eventually adopted a resolution, which is a landmark resolution on human rights and environment, climate change debates, doing two things, basically, among others, basically giving a mandate to the Office of the High Commissioner to participate in the Rio+20 discussions. So it's great to see Melinda here from that office. We can share some perspectives on that later. And second, the Human Rights Council established an independent expert on human rights and environment, which is tasked, among other things, to follow up on the implementation of Rio+20. In addition, this work led to a joint statement, or in parallel, let's say, a joint statement of all special procedures of the Human Rights Council, highlighting the importance of incorporating a rights-based approach or a rights-based analysis into the Rio+20 outcome document. That joint statement emphasized questions of accountability and concretely proposed that there should be a mechanism similar perhaps to the Council and the Universal Periodic Review that could monitor implementation of concrete commitments on sustainable development issues that could be taken in Rio+20. As Anil mentioned, the Special Rapporteur on the right to water and sanitation has also publicly expressed its view that Rio+20 should not renege on promises already made. And yet, despite the fact that, as we see, UN bodies, human rights bodies, UN human rights experts, are all calling on Rio+20 to not ignore rights and to be able to account for a rights dimension in the context of sustainable development, we come here to New York, the previous rounds of informals, intersessionals, and this session as well. You see bracketed text, countries proposing the deletion of the few references to rights that appeared in the text, and this gave many organizations in civil society cause for concern. One of the things that we did was to write a letter to the High Commissioner, reminding her that now her office now has the mandate to participate in these negotiations, and so we're welcoming again the fact that the High Commissioner responded to that letter by sending letters to all missions that are participating in this process, reminding them of their human rights commitments. I won't expand any more on that, since perhaps Melinda can elaborate further. So put you on the spotlight. I'm sure you had much to do with that letter. The final point I'll make is that in dealing with this discussion on rights and Rio Plus 20, the Rights and Sustainability Cluster, to give a loose name, a coalition of network of a number of organizations concerned about this issue, has put together a document with 5 concrete proposals on how to integrate a rights-based approach into sustainability, rights into the outcome document. That document is now available, and we'll be happy to circulate it as broadly as we can.
Good. Thank you, Marcos. Maybe you can pass the mic to Melinda if you want to, because Marcos did put you on the spot, and I don't want to lose the opportunity. So yeah, just maybe give us a sense of what the discussions have been and the thinking that's going on, and even inspire us to keep fighting.
Well, thank you very much, the organisers, for holding this event. And I think it's really opportune that you hold it so early in the week as well. It's really great to really set the tone of why we're all here. Thanks, Marcus, for offering me the microphone. To be honest, I would have normally have come to Geneva for this. I'm part of a Rio team that leads on our strategy for Rio Plus 20. But we were so concerned actually by the paucity of human rights language in the last draft that came out of the informals that we actually thought it was very important for us to make sure that our message is heard to as many member states as possible. We're extremely grateful to the co-sponsors of the Human Rights and Environment Resolution of the Human Rights Council, which, as Marcus says, was adopted at the last Human Rights Council session, and that's Resolution HRC L9 Red 1. It was really critical because that language, and the key co-sponsors, I'm not sure if any of them are here, but Costa Rica, Maldives and Switzerland, that language was actually really instrumental as well. Now, of course, our High Commissioner was going to Rio anyway, where else would High Commissioner be for one of the most important events in UN history? But we really felt concerned that at this set of informals that the political outcome document might eventually be cooked. It seems, I'm not sure, but I'm monitoring Working Group 1, my colleagues in Working Group 2, I'm not quite sure of the speed of things, but there might actually be, it may not be cooked after this set of informals, we don't know, but we're going at quite a slow speed. Without going into too much detail, because I'm more than happy to share, and I think it's much more eloquent, I would actually prefer you to read our High Commissioner's statement, open letter to all permanent missions based in Geneva and New York, and it's now available also on our website as well. We're having a page that's devoted to Rio Plus 20. But I just want to, if there's one thing I can say, is one thing that I'd like all delegates and to recall is that the actual Rio principles are very, very much grounded in human rights. I must admit, the first time I read the Rio principles was only about 2 months ago. I was actually shocked, starting from principle 1 right through the end, how many of those principles are grounded in human rights. I think it will be a real sad, very, very sad to see them undermined. Our very basic message is that when member states make commitments at this World Conference, that they do so with respecting and certainly not undermining their human rights obligations. I think this is our key message, and of course we would very much like to see that in any decisions being made, the basic principles of equality and non-discrimination apply, meaningful, full, active, free, meaningful participation of people, and of course that is a higher standard when it comes to Indigenous peoples. We want there to be an accountability mechanism as well, and everything to be grounded in the rule of law. That's it in a nutshell. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Melinda. So, you know, I do think that one thing that we have to be cognizant of is that, in a way, and I think we all have to recognize this, the UN is finding itself going clearly blindly into an area that is not defined, and that is the area of the green economy. Over and over, it comes up in the negotiations. What does this mean? What are we talking about here? And I think that is, if you will, the first, has led us to this point now where there is such concern, and people aren't speaking the same language, partially because it has never been defined. We defined sustainability long ago, sustainable development, or much, at least it had a longer time to generate some conceptualizations. Green economy has not. And so it is, depending on where you live, and there have been documents that have been produced, but still there is a lot of concern generated from this. Human rights, we know. We have accepted norms at the UN on how to move these kind of items forward. Green economy, we don't know the implications for it, and that's why I think some states, I would suggest, are being very cautious, and with good reason. Now, I would like us to, I want to open it up a little bit more. We have had some other people join us, and certainly I see Renee Oriana from the Bolivian mission here, or delegation, excuse me, and welcome. Are there any other people that we have to recognize here? And I'll just go around if there's anyone else to put up your hand or introduce yourself. Do you want to? Anyone else new that wants to introduce themselves? Okay, but as you speak, so what we're going to go now is to a more an interactive part of the session. Okay, I would invite, because this is a co-sponsored event, if anyone from the sponsored groups wants to take the floor first and just make any points before we go broadly. So.
Yeah, thank you, Eddie. I would like to put in perspective that this week, as Melinda said, it's very nice to have this meeting now in the beginning of the week, because we have to work. And Friday we have 2 meetings, we have 2 side events which can be important for us, and would like just to invite you for the event on rights to risk. In fact, after the past negotiations, we created some coalition of some organizations to promote this agenda on the rights.